Hello, everyone, to what is it, episode 3?
Yeah, episode 3, Jimerz Rantz. I'd like to welcome everyone back once again to, as Tommy said here, episode 3. Once again, I'm joined by audio guy Tommy, Miss Katie O'Connor here, and today we're going to touch on another topic of, I believe, the subconscious is kind of what we're trying to cover today, and how the area of dreams and trying to discuss the significance of understanding how the subconscious and the dreams interact with each other and how they reflect kind of things that might be going on in your life. As I stated in the other podcast, that dreams have been something that have fascinated me ever since I started taking an interest in psychology, which began with my intro to psychology class. And one of the earliest psychologists in the psychological field was Carl Jung. And from day one, I just became, deeply interested in his theories on dreams and the subconscious. And one of the things that really appealed to me when he was discussing his theories is that, there's archetypes, there's things that tie into the dreams, and how we see ourselves in certain dreams is kind of like I was discussing this with one of the instructors here the other day after the other podcast too as well, and we were talking about how people go to get into these meditative states, and I say, I believe that when we dream, that's like entering into a meditative state in its purest form. Whatever is hidden in our subconscious, whatever we're repressing,
It's let loose.
Yeah, as Jung calls it, the shadow. The shadow is all these things that we want to do, but society says, no, you can't go rob a bank or you can't go steal and all this. So we have this ability to kind of hold back ourselves. But within us all is that yin and yang, shadow and
Right.
yeah. So if you want to.
Well, to jump in, basically, even before Jung, there were therapists and theorists that looked at dreams as a way of healing, and it was just that Carl Jung was the first one that kind of came out and really said, "Let's look at this. Let's look at what's going on during that time of sleep." We know that we have stages of sleep and that we can get to the REM state after about 90 minutes. We can get into a REM state,
Right.
which is a rapid eye movement, which is the dream state. And during this time, a lot of theorists over time have looked at what's happening during that time. What are we dreaming and why are we dreaming it? And so different psychotherapists will look at dreams from different perspectives. And luckily for me, I was able to take a dream class when I was in college.
Cool.
That really explored the way different psychologists explored dreams and dream work. And so from early on, I have to say I've been a dreamer from way back when. And found my mother was basically every morning, that was her first question is, what did you dream?
Oh, yeah.
And so the family would talk about their dreams, and just talking about dreams first thing in the morning with your family helps you to remember your dreams later on the next day. And so it's very important that we start looking at these tools, because our dream life can tell us a lot about ourselves.
And yeah, exactly.
And that's part of the thing that I liked about those early pioneers that kind of started the psychological studies, was that it was more like a simplified form. It hadn't really gotten too complicated yet. And a lot of it was just analyzing an individual and trying to connect the dots. So, I know that a lot of times most dream analysis would kind of they would look at what you were going through in your life, and if you were living in a stressful manner or if a lot was going on, usually your dreams would have that ability to reflect that. And I see that now. I've had that ability to kind of have these really, really like, I don't want to say, like scary dreams, but they're just like these like weird dreams, you know, and you have that ability to remember them more over others.
Right.
Yeah.
On a nightly basis, I think we have these compensatory dreams, as they're known. They're not really too significant because we have this ability to kind of just forget what we dreamed dreamt about. But sometimes when you get those really, really kind of like significant and meaningful dreams, the ones that you're able to remember very clearly, I think those are the ones that we should, you know, really take a good look at. And like I said, it's something that interests me. I know that, you know, the psychological field is still it's a relatively new science compared to the other sciences, and I think it's only been around for a little over 100 years, like maybe 175 or something like that, maybe is what I'm thinking.
Well, even before psychology, there's been a lot of dream consideration in indigenous cultures way back in different places. Dreams were considered very important. Sometimes they were considered to be a message to the village or to the community. Sometimes they were considered to be a message about your healing or your health. And a lot of times in those times and places, there were medicine men and shaman people that took it upon themselves to work with people in the community to look at what were they dreaming and what were the messages coming through. So dreams have been also attributed to spirituality and religious beliefs for forever, as far back as we can probably even look and see, as far back as we can study. So basically, dreams have always been with us. It's always been part of us. And being able to look at that part of our life as another reality, it's maybe not a waking reality, but a sleeping reality. We can discover whether we're trying to work through obstacles. Sometimes we're trying to work through issues that we're having in our daily life.
All kinds of scenarios.
Yes, in all areas, we'll have a lot of different types of dreams, and that's what I want to talk to you today about is all the different kinds of dreams that you can have. I know that we were talking about Jung, he had what he called the collective unconscious. And the collective unconscious was basically images and feelings and knowledge that we're not really aware of, but because you're human beings, we have this collective unconscious. We have it from every human being has it. So we know that like images of spiders or snakes will scare us and warn us. Images of the sun is a very powerful image, as well as the image of the moon, images in nature. And so the collective unconscious is unconscious to us on some level, but sometimes will come out in dreams, such as being afraid of the dark or being afraid of the shadow. We talk about the shadow.
How you said with like spiders and all of that, those are like there in some native cultures. There's like that's a very significant because like the spider and like coyote are like considered tricksters, and if like you start to have like visions or dreams of like or encountering them more, then that's on a different plane of like messaging towards them, and that's how like those shamans would read into and make those kind of like reading your dreams to see what your conscious is trying to interpret with whatever it is that it's trying to to get through, because I think that's a big thing with dreams, is putting yourself through those rounds of scenarios just to see how you would probably handle it, or like probably see what would be the worst case scenario and how you would probably see a way to survive through that as a way of keeping you safe, or just trying to, you know, get through your mind getting through itself to keep going with whatever it is it needs to.
And that goes back to that what I was speaking about earlier about the meditative state that we seek to enter into. The free association, the drawing, you know, just the free drawing. I think then that the images that we see in our dreams are like just the purest reflections of that ability to do that as well. Sometimes they'll tell you, you know, just draw whatever without really thinking about it. And certain images have this ability to kind of just pop into our head. I know for one, I've been kind of stuck for about the past half a year on these kind of not necessarily mandalas, but these symbols of like eternal symbols. They're just like these spirals that go on and on. There's really no beginning or end to them. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to kind of like figure out what that means for me, you know.
Yeah.
And another significant thing that I realized about those drawings that I'm getting myself focused into is that it's always in force, you know. If I see an image in my head, I try to replicate it into 4, you know, and I think that plays into my my Native American background, because I know that 4 is a significant number for us. But for me, well, now that I'm talking about it, you know, I have this feeling that it's kind of like my mind showing me that there's a sense of balance there, you know, because everything has to be, you know, as symmetrical as I can make it. And it's this feeling of accomplishment when I finish it. And I have this ability to just kind of look into it and like focus my mind onto what it means exactly. And it's really like, to me, it's there's no beginning and there's no end, you know. So I'm kind of figuring that out for myself. But and I've seen that in certain cultures, in certain areas, and
It comes back around.
Yeah. It's that maze symbol. I don't know if you ever seen the maze symbol that kind of, I think the Pimas down in Arizona, they utilize that a lot for their type of...
Their iconography.
Yeah, it has that little man and he's like standing in the middle of that maze.
Oh, I think I've seen it a couple times.
So I've been drawing that like over and over again and just trying to like expand on not 1, but 4 all interconnected. And I've been able to accomplish that. And it was kind of hard at first because I had to figure out exactly how the lines were going to flow and where and how they were going to connect. But once I got that taken care of, you know, it's just kind of like I get a sense of seeing, you know, how it just goes on and on forever. And
Right.
but yeah, I'm kind of wandering off here on the topic.
Well, in the Buddhist tradition, the mandalas are literally portals. They're considered to be portals into other worlds. And so they're very spiritual, they're very religious, and they're very important to the traditions. And they do sand mandalas. They do them in the sand. They do them in the earth. They also will draw them, paint them in lots of different ways. But what you're talking about is the feeling of being completely empty and open in the consciousness, in that field of energy, that conscious field of energy. And when you talk about the man in the maze, what that that can be a lot of symbolism to a lot of different people. It can be different for different people, but perhaps it's a way of looking at your own life and trying to find your way through the maze of life.
Oh yeah.
And so it's working with that archetypal energy, and that's a Jungian term is archetypal, is basically a way of healing. In every time you draw it and you consider it and you bring it into your consciousness, perhaps you're finding your way out of the maze. And only you would know what that means for you.
Yeah.
over time, different people have come up with different meanings for different symbols. And there's lots of dream books out there that tell you, oh, this means this and this means that. But the most important thing that you could do is start keeping your own dream book. What do things mean for you?
Exactly.
For example, I can tell you that if I dream about the ocean, I could be talking or dreaming about emotions that I'm dealing with. Or I can be talking about life force energy. I can be talking about sexuality, but I could also be talking about change. And I know that for me, when I dream about water in any form, it's usually about change about to enter into my life. That's just because I've spent so much time working with my own dream images and seeing exactly what they mean to me.
Your subconscious has tied water with significant change, and that's the thing too about dreams. It's a state of consciousness that your brain lets it be open to more than the physical. It's a real, dreams are so weird because it's all in your head, in this little squishy jelly thing inside of our skulls, man. And like there have been where there's more dimensions beyond that our brain can be able to like not like access, but be able to be like can be in, to where like dreams are like letting us allowing us to go into those kinds of other planes, other kinds of, dare I say, dimensions, where like it's with spiritual with like spirituality and everything, with like things on the different plane. A lot of people like don't really it's a big thing of letting it happen. A lot of people don't let the that otherness happen to them because they refuse to let it or believe in it. And it's that belief of letting those things feel like, I would say like a Ouija board, if like you have speculation and all of that, but like if there's like this one little point of letting yourself believe, and then that's like a tipping point of letting yourself go into that state. It's a very interesting kind of like realm, definitely, where dreams happen at those moments of letting yourself be more than physical.
So would you say it's like really important, or it would be able to help a person make a significant headway into kind of analyzing something that's nagging at them in the back of their head if they start keeping these kind of journals, and not necessarily a journal where you're just writing, but also just keeping doodles and everything, and being able to do that for yourself? Because I've been wanting to do that, and I started it and I put it aside for the time being. But, you know, I know that for myself, a lot of these doodles that I do for myself, I know that like I'm not going to try to like show them to other people, but
they're there.
Yeah. And one of the things that I realize now as I'm talking is that those areas of balance that I seek to find in all these drawings that I'm doing at this time, I've been looking at a lot of the old Anasazi pottery designs. And one thing that I've noticed about those designs is that they're simple in nature, but they have this repetitive and symmetrical quality about them.
Yeah.
They'll go all the way around the rim, but it's just like a repeating pattern of itself. And maybe that played into something of what I'm kind of trying to
probably like get through.
Yeah. So
Well, we have repeating patterns of energy throughout the universe. If we look at nature, we have repeating patterns. We have, I think it's a Fibonacci.
Yes, the golden ratio.
The golden ratio there. We have it in mathematics.
Big time.
And repeating pattern in energy and energetic qualities is also there. If we start considering like vibration, frequency, sound, there's repeating patterns there. So if we start really looking at what are those repeating patterns and what are they trying to tell us?
Yes.
These dimensions exist within us, right in our DNA, in our cells. We have repeating patterns. That's what we're made out of. If we start considering that these patterns, these little pockets of energy, if they have knowledge, and if we can tap into that knowledge or that consciousness and utilize it for our life, we can become healthy. We can resonate with the healthy things. We can resonate with the earth. We can resonate with the planet. Even
good energies.
Yeah.
even the vibrations, the sound, the light has these levels of energy,
Oh yeah.
repetitive things, repetitive patterns.
Yeah.
And so opening your mind to saying, well, wow, what if the universe is communicating with me? And what if I'm missing something because I'm so caught up in my judgment of things that I've seen or heard, or maybe I'm jaded or tarnished because of things I've seen on television or heard from
Right.
other people.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of trying to categorize what happens or my level of consciousness, maybe I can open myself up to say, wow, there's something valid and purposeful and important in every spirituality, in every education, every classroom. There's something to learn from every person you come across. And so it's very important that we open up our minds and our hearts and say, hey, what can I learn today?
Exactly. Each and every single, that's just the very truth about it, is that everybody else knows something that you don't.
Yep.
And whether or not they will share that with you is based on like the kind of character that you are, and whether or not you're able to you're open to learn more about things and allow those things to reach you.
Not only that, can you really look inside yourself and know yourself?
Yes.
To know yourself is the beginning of knowing everyone and everything.
Big time.
And so moving into your own artwork, into your own dreams, into your own wishes, your own thoughts, your own consciousness really puts you in touch with the entire universe, because all of those things exist within you.
Because it can be a good thing when the void stares back at you. Because isn't that what could that also be you seeing as you are? Because the void staring back at you could also just be the creator itself. Because everything that you see, everything that we see is just a very tiny, we can't see ultraviolet. We can't hear all these other frequencies. We just see this tiny part of God's world, the great creator's world, man. To walk around amongst everybody else within this tiny spectrum of wavelength that we can observe is just we have all of our own voids and all of our own like ways of seeing ourselves through this crazy thing of matter.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up that topic on the Fibonacci sequence, because that's another thing that, recently I've been like just kind of trying to wrap my mind around whatever. I've never really looked too deeply into it, but I know that the Fibonacci sequence, especially in pine cones, is real evident, because you'll be able to look at a pine cone before it opens up from the bottom, and you'll see how those swirls go. And I think it's like 11 to the right and 13 to the left. And it matches out to a lot of other things. Even the seashell, the nautilus seashells, when you saw them in half, that spiral will actually match up to the pine cone measurements as well.
All of those follow it's called the golden ratio.
Yes, yeah, that's that Fibonacci sequence of one perfect triangle, then square.
What was it? It's 1 + 1 2, and then 1 + 2 3.
Yeah,
and then 2 3 5, and
it
then
goes
8.
on and on. Yeah, so And that's the thing that interests me, is because like the ancients, they knew something about those pine cones, because if you look at some of those old murals from like Mesopotamia and other ancient civilizations, they'll have their deities holding like a basket, and they'll have like a pine cone in their hand. And what they're saying is that that was supposed to represent the pineal gland within your brain.
Yeah.
And before all this modern stuff took us away from being able to realize these things, I believe that they had this ability to open up that pineal gland. And once you have that ability to, as you call it, the third eye, to become aware and use it, you know, that opens up your mind to so many other things. And that goes into like the fourth dimension. How you're talking about bees can see colors that we're not allowed. We can't see, like our eyes can't see it at that level, the ultraviolet level.
Yeah.
But I know that in the fourth dimension, there's certain things like what was that called? The Metatron cube.
Yeah.
And it's like our mind can't wrap around it, because what that Metatron cube does, I think it's Metatron cube, I hope I'm saying it right. It has this ability to kind of like show itself as going in, but really it's coming out. And it's hard to explain it, but
There have been a lot of plenty of illustrations and computer simulations on how it would probably look like. But in that cube is essentially one side is connected to every single side of the cube. And one interesting thing that someone kind of like thought of while I was going through my TikTok feed is that shadow beings that like you would see at the corner of the room, or sometimes people would see. Some person thought, what if those are actually like 3D shadows of fourth dimension,
on another dimensional level that we can't see?
Because like someone said, we have the 3D plane of where we are, and we cast a 2D shadow.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't a fourth dimension being cast a 3D shadow, and that being like just a moment of like that?
And I believe that. And if you look, I think the simplest way to put it is, if you ever seen that picture of the flower of life.
Yeah.
It's a 6 and it continues to expand out. That's basically what every single shape in the universe is. Because there's another way that they draw it with like the hourglass symbol. And when you use that hourglass symbol to kind of like rotate it around, that's that Metatron cube. And, you know, everything is based upon that. And another good example is like all the stars in the sky. You think that night after night that they're just randomly moving around, but they're circling around, and they follow their own patterns at night, you know. And that's, you know, one of the topics that I am also kind of like deeply interested in, is understanding that our whole universe is it's
running off of
it's designed.
Yes.
It's designed, and the purest form of trying to understand what this design is just basically numbers, you know, that 1 + 1, 2, 2 + 1, 3, 3 + 2, 5, and on and on. And that's just like basically the foundation for what Miss O'Connor was talking about, was that we're all connected in one, and we're all part of this big giant thing, but it just comes back down to us, you know, and
the micro and the macro.
Yeah, exactly. So we're the micro, and the macro is that big, larger picture that we see for ourselves. And
well, they call it the energetic field. And part of being human is understanding how to open to energy, how to activate that pineal gland in order to perceive universes beyond ourselves, to perceive energy and energetic expressions beyond our own. So we start looking at things like interdimensional travel, and we start looking at the universe. We look at the stars, we look at the moon, and we begin to realize that we are still affected by those things. By going out and looking at the sun, it'll affect you a certain way. Yeah. It'll brighten your mood if you're down, if you're depressed. Going out to the stars and letting the light shine upon you, and feeling that energy from the stars and the moon. The moon has influenced humans for forever,
Oh,
as
yeah.
far as we know.
Oh man.
That's why during a full moon, there's more people in the ER than there is usually.
Yeah.
There's more energies fluctuating.
They've actually done studies and said, wow, why is this happening? And so there's a lot of studies into this, but part of learning to perceive the energetic field and to see beyond yourself is getting still, getting quiet, getting rid of the chatter of the mind, blocking out your technology, grounding yourself to the earth. And all of these things are what we consider to be healing. They're healing things for human beings.
Big time.
To connect to the earth. Now, you may not think about that when you're walking across the parking lot or wherever you're at. But when you're really upset, when you really have something you're battling within yourself, getting grounded is the first rule. Don't stay stuck in your head and stuck in your emotions. Get out, walk in nature, connect your feet to the earth, touch the trees. The tree huggers of the 70s, they had it right. They've been measuring that and discovering that, wow, our vibrational rate will change when we're near a tree.
Go hug a tree.
Go hug a tree.
Go touch some grass.
They're also connecting things to leaves, like a little mechanical device that will play music of that tree
I
or
love
that
that.
plant.
Yeah, I see that one.
And it is amazing
Yeah.
how much beautiful music
It's so real.
is made by those plants and trees. And so even now you can go on Amazon and they have grounding mats. They have things that you can put in your bed so that you're being grounded at night. But the easiest way is get outside, get your feet on the earth, and get
That's
connected.
the realest way.
Yeah.
I think like it's because there is a real presence with force down to the atoms, because there's a certain way that electrons spin whenever they're excited in like a conductor.
Yeah.
There's an electromagnetic force, and there's a certain way that force turns whenever like that voltage is applied to it. And with that, on the micro, you can look at the macro and see that there's a lot of things that follow that same rotation of spinning. And you look at it, the Earth is a giant magnet with its electromagnetic field going up and through from the South Pole to the North Pole and out and coming back again. Being grounded, you like on a serious level, you yourself are a magnet to where your energies are fluctuating, and when you sit on that ground, you actually are going with the earth with that. And it's just a very significant thing that to acknowledge that there is a force acting upon that's keeping constantly going, that we've only been able to slightly tap into on that, because those electromagnetic forces around you are actually kind of measured with each emotional state. And they saw that like they saw that like there's like more kind of like power or energy, more like fluctuations whenever the people were in certain emotional states. And one of them where they thought like love, they would get a higher reading, but it wasn't. It was kind of like an average reading. The highest reading that they got from those emotions is one of feeling of authenticity, where if you're your truest, realest self, your energies are at their prime. And that's where you can let you yourself have that energy to contribute to whoever's around you, and either lift or bring everybody down.
Definitely.
It's a very real thing.
And I like that idea that, not necessarily idea, but I like the fact that what Miss O'Connor was talking about, that grounding. And I think that's real important. And that's part of the things that one of the goals that I want to really learn how to do is help others learn how to get back in touch with, their feelings, I think that we've all become so disassociated with ourselves that we've lost this ability to kind of really recognize how we're feeling on a moment to moment basis. You know, if we're feeling good, it's good, you know, but if we're feeling bad, then we try to look past it, or we don't try to kind of like pinpoint what the problem is. Like she said, the grounding practice is something that, you know, I used to look at it and be like, that's what is that supposed to do, you know? But when I've come back into my recovery, that's part of the things that's one of the things that I've been able to do and actually, you know, get a sense of and recognize that it's real in its ability to help you let all these tensions out. Like you said, there's these invisible magnetic fields. Well, there's these invisible emotions within us that sometimes being able to pick up a leaf or pick up a stone or go out into nature, it has that ability to dissipate that, you know, those feelings, you know. And I think that for me, I speak from personal experience, that when I'm feeling down, my go-to is always just to get out there and walk, you know. And then that's one of the questions I wanted to ask Miss O'Connor, was that when we speak of meditation, does that mean that you have to be sitting there and meditating, or can you be walking around and doing other things while you're letting your mind just kind of not necessarily focus on one theme? But
well, originally, when meditation came into the United States, it was transcendental meditation. And it was, you would sit for long periods of time, you would be in one position for long periods of time. And that was sort of the model that was put out there for meditation. But as everybody evolved and changed and society changed, they started realizing, well, there's other ways to meditate. Meditation can be, like I said the other day, it was, you know, you can spend 30 seconds in meditation or a minute. You can do a walking meditation. You can do, like the whirling dervishes do whirling meditation, so they're dancing. So meditation can be something that puts you into a trance-like state. And in that trance-like state, you're very relaxed. You're sometimes not even aware of the outside world. You're only aware of what's going on inside you. But in a lot of traditions, it's a matter of following your breath, calming yourself down, going within. And all of these things, once you learn how to do this and practice this, you can put yourself into a state of meditation very quickly. Like I said, 30 seconds, or, you know, I'd like to spend a little bit longer myself, simply because the health benefits of meditating for longer periods of time are very evident now. Dr. Joe Dispenza does CAT scans and brain scans of people, and you can see the difference between the health of a person that meditates and the health of a person that does not.
Right.
Now, I did want to address what you had said about these vibrations, these frequencies. Mm-hmm. Everything is light and sound is what it comes down to, vibration. And so when we talk about vibrational rate in psychology, we're talking about what level are you, where is your consciousness at? Mm-hmm. And there are maps of consciousness. I know there's one by David Hawkins where they mapped things like to vibration. And they could tell that if you're in a state of love and peace and joy, you're at a higher vibrational rate than if you're in apathy or grief or pain or hate, things like that. And so there's emotions that can go along with vibrational rate or frequency. Now, you know, in psychology and counseling, we say, well, what is a low vibration? What is a high vibration? And what does that look like on an emotional level? And we start saying, okay, well, when we're in pain, it's definitely not a high vibration.
No.
When we're in anger, we're not. However, part of our healing process is being able to face those demons inside ourselves, to face those parts of us that we don't like. And that's what Jung called the shadow self.
Yep.
That's the part that we don't want to acknowledge, that we don't want to say exists. That part of you that wants to drink, or that part of you that wants to engage in things that are not healthy for you. And so when we start looking at what do I need to do to bring myself to a higher vibration, it's okay, I need to first of all face my traumas, face my sorrow, face my anger, face my demons, and talk them out, work them out, deal with them.
First of all, acknowledge them.
Yeah, there you go.
Them.
That's what I was going to
And
say.
a lot of people don't want to acknowledge them. They want to stay numb because it's a lot less painful if you stay numb. You can just stay numb and stay high or drunk and
move on.
Yeah.
and but you can't really open up to your superpowers of being a human being until you can feel. You have to be able to feel. Yep. And when you can feel, you can sense. And when you can be authentic in your feelings and who you are, then you're going to be a much healthier person. And so ultimately, you can't stay in those states of being high or being intoxicated, because ultimately you're going to have things that keep bringing you back to yourself. And until you can face yourself and say, oh man, what mistakes have I made here? And forgive yourself, love yourself, make amends to people you need to make amends to, but work through those traumas, feel them, let yourself cry through them, whatever it takes. But let yourself work through those traumas and then continue to acknowledge what's going on in your world. Acknowledge your consciousness. If you wake up and you're upset or you're angry, how can you change that?
Along with no excuses.
Right. You face it and you say, okay, this is the way I feel today. I'm going to just let it go. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go look at the sun. I'm going to count the things I'm in gratitude about. These are some of the things that can help you move beyond yourself and release that energy that's just being held in that shadow, in the darkness. And this is what Jung called shadow work, is going into the shadow, going into the darkness and facing it and loving it and battling it, whatever you need to do to get to your higher self. And then once you can face that darkness, you can face anything.
Yeah.
Once you face that shadow, you can face anything. You can do anything.
Because your shadow is not that part of you is not going against you now. It's working with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you know exactly what you're going against once you're able to recognize what the problem is, that's holding you back or that you're trying to avoid. And you kind of strip it. Well, I always do that. I have a bad habit of saying that, like I'm talking for everyone, but I'm speaking from my personal experience now, is that when I was able to acknowledge all these things, because I know that in recovery, the fourth step is taking that personal inventory of yourself. And what I always believed it to be was that you had to be very precise about all the wrongs and all the bad things that you are. But really, what it came down for me realizing was that I don't need to be very specific on all these things. Now, this might not be for everyone, but I'm speaking for myself once again, and I can't stress that enough. But all I told myself in order to get over all these things that were in the back of my head as things that I had done in the past was that, I know I made these mistakes. I know that, I'm by no means perfect, but from here on out, as long as I acknowledge that, these mistakes that I've done and realize, that I'm at fault for those choices, from here on out, I can make that decision for myself to kind of move forward and leave them behind, but still hold on to them in a way that's going to show me not to make those same mistakes again.
I think that's called humility.
Yeah. It's
in a way.
It's kind of like, I don't know why it took so, and it is a hard step for a lot of people that get into recovery, is because that's one of the things that holds them up. It's kind of like they don't want to face those things that they know that they've done
to themselves and others
taking
around
that
them.
personal inventory is the hardest thing, you know. And I still do it at the end of the day. You know, one of the good things that I've learned in recovery is that at the end of the day, well, first of all, in the beginning, in the morning, you wake up, and I tell myself every single day, you know, I'm gonna do my best today, you know. And at the end of the day, when everything is done, if I can sit down and tell myself you did your best, that's enough for me. And then it goes into, in the big book, it says, we give ourselves this daily reprieve at the end of the day, where we have this ability to analyze how our day went. What mistakes did I make? What did I do right? And what did I do wrong? And if we can be honest with ourselves when we're giving ourselves that daily reprieve, as they call it,
Yeah.
you know, we can say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that no more. Or maybe I made this mistake here, but you know, I'm owning it right now, you know. So it's kind of like you're taking responsibility and holding yourself accountable. So
Definitely being super real with yourself.
yeah, and it's very, for me, the program that I ran was not so rigid in terms of me following everything to a precise step. You know, all I knew was that I was going to do my best. That was my mantra, I guess you could say, for the day. Today I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do the best I can. And at the end of the day, it worked. You know, it worked for me. And that's how I did it. And another cliche that I go back to, or another saying that they tell us, is we practice progress over perfection. So as long as we can understand that we're progressing, but we're not perfect, you know, that makes it that much easier just to be able to walk that path of what you're trying to do and accomplish in anything, you know. It can apply to anything and basically everything as well. So.
And I think an important thing is, at the end of the day, look at what went right.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're so focused on what went wrong that we overlook all the things that went right and all the things that were good in our day.
Yeah.
You know, discounting being able to walk in the forest or to reach out and help somebody else. That act in itself is very, very important. Being able to extend your energy and your personality and your yourself out to other people and say, hey, how can I help you? What can I do? And maybe it's just smiling at them and saying, hey, have a good day today, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that simple, and yet we forget. You know, there's all these things that went right through the day, and we need to look at those as well as what maybe went wrong or what you were not happy with. At the end of the day, you might look at that and count and say, oh man, you know, there was 20 times I reached out to help somebody and it felt really good. You know? So keeping that in mind is important. What if everything goes right?
Yes.
What if it goes right?
And you're focused on just that one tiny little thing that happened, that 1 second in the day is throwing your, big time. Acknowledging the good things is, to me personally, that's a hard thing. Yeah. It's a very hard thing to be like, I did good. Yeah. Good job, me. That pat on my back. It's always you could have done better. You should have did this. You should have did that. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that?
You know, there was a book out some years ago called Random Acts of Kindness. And what it was about was, how many kindnesses do you do in a day, and how does that feel? And first of all, can you do it without letting anybody know that you're doing it? If you look around and you try to do, say, 5 acts of kindness without letting the people know that you're doing it, it's really hard. It's really hard to look for those sometimes. You know, it's more than opening the door for someone going into the grocery store. It's more than, you know, things like that. When you really look around and think, what would really be an act of kindness for somebody, and make it so they won't know, that's a really difficult thing to do. But when we start focusing on that and being conscious of that and saying, wow, you know, what would brighten this person's day or brighten that person's day? It gets hard because you're like, you know, I got to really think about it.
Really just taking stock of how can I be a sweetheart today? Let's see what like I'll make sure the coffee pot's always filled. I'll make sure that everything is stocked.
But when you're thinking about that stuff, when you're focusing on it, you're not thinking about all the ways you screwed up, all the things you did wrong.
Yeah.
You're not focusing on yourself. You're focusing on somebody else, and you're focusing at helping somebody or increasing their vibration. Increasing that vibration is important.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I can attest to, is because early on in my recovery, it was just a moment-to-moment thing of trying not to get yourself into that negative thought or negative thinking and that rut. And nowadays, it's like what went from me at the end of the day stressing about all these kind of bad things that I did wrong to the end of the day just going home and just being like, I'm just happy these days, and that's the simplest way I can put it, And that's just living a program that stresses that honesty and truthfulness, not necessarily to others, but most importantly with yourself, And if you're honest and truthful with yourself, there's nothing that should hold you back or anything, because you're able to
not lie.
Yeah, you're able to readily assess the situation and discover what it is that's going to be that obstacle that you need to get over. And more times than not, when you're living your life in a balanced way, those obstacles are just little tiny things.
They're tasks.
Yes. Before, these obstacles, when I was still stuck in my addiction, were like, how long am I going to be in jail for? What am I going to do to pay my fines now? And how long am I going to be sick? But, those are things that I left behind. And I can look back now and honestly say that, it was a struggle in the beginning. It was a struggle of trying to convince myself that things are going to get better.
Yeah, man, yeah.
But, just by faith and by believing and having that higher vibration of keeping myself in that positive attitude, I was able to, just take it day by day, like they said, and little by little,
and
I got there, and that's.
And you can keep staying there. You can even get better.
Yes.
And what another thing
Most
I
definitely.
wanted to bring to you about the idea of the shadow is becoming thankful for the path that you've walked, becoming thankful for that pain, that sorrow, that hell you went through, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Looking back at it and saying, "Wow, I made it through that.
Yeah.
Look it." I made it through. Would you be here now talking to this audience if you hadn't gone through this?
And that's one of the things that some of my friends, we like to talk about, it's like we had to walk that path in order to get here, unfortunately. And a part of me is always saying like, wow, I wish I never had to. But a part of me is like, no, it just had to be that way, and I had to go through what I went through and come out. And now it's my responsibility, I feel, to do my best to help others, in the way that I was helped and carried this message of, trying to help others find this balance in their lives once again.
Right.
Because I didn't do it by myself, I have my friends out there that showed me the way, and they took me along. And, they're still there by my side, walking beside me day by day, and we're all walking this path together, and that's pretty awesome. And that goes back to that higher vibration and what frequency you're vibing at and what you're putting out there is what you're going to attract to yourself,
Right.
Those type of like-minded individuals that are going to help you along in this path that we call life. So.
And mind you, it's not a smooth path.
Oh, no. I wish I could say that it's all roses and daisies and everything. But, the reality of it is life. And there's always going to be those challenges, whether they're unexpected, whether they're thrust upon us, at certain times. But
it's whether or not how you take it.
Yes. And the biggest and most important thing that I've discovered and realized finally is that we don't have to do it alone. All it takes is just being able to ask others for help. I need help. Can you help me, please? And there's a lot of people out there that are really ready and willing to help you along. So
there's so many tools out there, and there's so many people that are out there to help, that want to help.
Yes.
And a lot of the times it's coming to this point of like, okay, well, maybe I wasn't, maybe I didn't feel worthy of this.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Oh, man.
maybe because of the way people treated me in the past, or because
Oh,
of past
man.
traumas.
Yep.
Maybe I
Speaking
didn't,
some real stuff here.
Yeah.
maybe I didn't feel worthy of being able to be healthy or to walk a healthy path. And when you can sort of confront that shadow and say, no, I am worthy. I can do this. And I'm here to, I'm here for a reason.
Yes.
And overcoming those traumas and overcoming that programming. And this is
Yep.
what I wanted to talk about to bring us back to the idea of consciousness is we have these programs. We're almost like computers. We're running programs that were fed to us when we were children.
Default programs.
That's right. And we are so immersed in them, we don't realize that those programs of unworthiness or whatever it is that we're constantly running them. So sometimes when you can reach a point where you become thankful for your shadow side and thankful for the troubles that you've had in your life, thankful for that path that was full of obstacles that you're now off of, when you can start looking at your thoughts and what's going on in your mind and your thinking, what are you saying to other people? And what are you telling yourself? Or what are you proclaiming to the world every day?
Yes.
A lot of times people will say negative things about themselves. They'll say negative things to other people. And yet that's a program. And the only way to stop a program is to reverse it, to say the opposite. If you find yourself saying something negative about yourself, say, oh, cancel. I'm taking it back. I'm becoming conscious of what I just said. And I say the opposite of whatever I said. And in this way, you start changing the railroad tracks in the brain. I like to say it like that.
Yeah.
Because you change your consciousness. You change the way you're thinking. But it takes constant vigilance, constant work.
Catching yourself.
Yeah, and that's why writing in a journal, drawing, going into those moments of meditation,
Bringing all of those into the physical realm.
right?
Yeah.
Writing down your dreams,
Becoming aware of it.
walking on the earth.
Yeah.
I mean, holding a stone and just saying, I want to let this go, whatever this is. There's so many tools at our fingertips, and yet we tend to just look away and just walk blindly into the night. We don't pay attention. And that's where consciousness comes in. It's like, I want to feel better. I want to emanate light and love and these things from my heart and from my soul. And how do I do that? And sometimes it's just doing an act of prayer, or maybe it's saying, Spirit, help me do this. But it's there, as long as you can be conscious, have your conscious, and be grounded and focused, and keep coming back to what's important. And it's the love that's important.
Definitely. And I want to go back to what you said about that. In the beginning, it's hard because like you said, like we're still living, we're only like days away from all these things, being out there drunk, burning people, burning bridges, doing wrong,
Yeah.
But it's going to take that effort in the beginning, and it's going to take that determined effort at first. But like I said, it's helping other people along as well as helping yourself by giving those words of encouragement and showing them that it's going to be all right. And
It is your body with that also, like along with just like changing a diet. You don't like take everything on immediately.
yeah,
Small bites.
Yep, that's one of the things that kind of trips people up a lot, is that they expect it all to come
Be a saint overnight
at once. Yeah, and it's all gonna get easy. But that's the thing, is it takes time. It takes time, but it's gonna get there, and it's gonna be all right. Is what I can say.
You need patience with yourself.
Yes, definitely. You need patience, you need commitment, you need effort, and you need friends, that are going to help you along in this journey that you want to take. And
Big time.
once you start hanging out with those like-minded individuals, like I like to say a lot, it's amazing at how far along you can come, and being able to, like I said, sit here and share these ideas and put them out there for others to hear, that kind of lifts a burden off of you as well,
Yeah.
So
This is like kind of our journal of like all of these.
yeah, definitely. And it makes me happy when I get to come in here and we get to talk about these kind of issues, because it shows that they work. I'm living proof of what can actually happen if you try.
Oh,
And
man.
I never would have ever in 1,000 years, whatever the saying is, imagined that I could be sitting here in front of you guys now with 3 years of sobriety. I had 3 years of sobriety on November 17th. And when I look back at it like 3 years ago, I it's just doesn't even seem that long, but it's
3 years is long though.
yeah. But what I took it as is, for me, when I'm able to look back and analyze it now, is that first year for me was my winter year. And I say it's a winter year because what I mean by that is that in terms of like how a farmer farms, when winter comes around and the corn is done growing, and it's time to lay down those stalks and put aside whatever it is you're going to keep.
Not growing.
Yeah. That's what that year, that first year of sobriety was for me. It was for me to lay down all those things that I didn't want no more, and to save all those things and use them for later. And so as I entered my second year into sobriety, I took those things that I saved, those seeds, and I started caring for them and using them. I planted them, in my heart, in my mind, of all these things that I wanted them to become, and they started growing. And it's being able to cultivate these things and ensure that you're caring for them that allows them to continue to grow into what you want them to be, And that's the easiest form of analogy that I can use for myself as I look back and see it that way.
There is a constant like tending to.
Yeah. And so, it's amazing because like this is going to be my third year. 2 days ago was the beginning of the third year. And it's like my summer year, So all these things that are growing, they're coming to fruition. And, I take this podcast here as a sign of that fruition, that I have this ability to go out there and spread this message, of hope and recovery to others as well. There's a wide range of topics that we can discuss here that's going to help people along in what it is that they want to do.
And definitely like, y'all aren't alone with a lot of these different like discussions and all that. Just know that they're jogging in my head too.
Yeah, definitely. And we touched a lot upon a lot of good topics here. And I know that we always have this kind of like focus on like, we'll just try to talk on dreams or we'll just try to talk on this, but we end up going all over the place. So.
Yeah.
But this is only our third podcast, so we're still getting the hang of it, but it's good. I like that we were able to discuss these things about the meanings and, there's
And I mean, they are interesting.
It's important to be able to go with the flow and, maybe we're not sticking to topic, but wherever we do go, it's important. It's something that needs to come out or needs to be said or needs to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that when you talk about planting seeds, we need to continually be planting seeds for our own lives. Determine what do we want? Where do we want to be? Who do we want to be? And to take that focus and say, okay, well, how am I going to get there? How I'm going to plant this seed that this is what I want, but how am I going to cultivate it? How am I going to water it?
Yeah.
Do I need more education? Do I need to reach out and have more support in my life?
Everyone's crop is different.
That's exactly right. So determining what's right for you is very much, an individual prospect.
Right.
And I want to use that biblical parable of the faith of a mustard seed, because that mustard seed is like the tiniest, littlest seed. And that's all it takes, is being able to plant that little tiny idea in your mind and cultivate it and nurture it. And before you know it, that little tiny seed grows into the biggest tree in the entire garden, And another one that came to my mind when Katie was speaking earlier was that light. When someone lights a candle, they don't place it under a basket and hide it away. Rather, they put that light up on a shelf so that way it can show everyone the way, And that's basically like what we're doing now is we're trying to spread that positive message and show others that way, light the way for them and light that path for them. And that's another thing that. we strive to do, or I strive to do, to the best of my abilities, you know. And I'm far from competent or expert in what I'm trying to accomplish and do. But for all the people listening and tuning in, just know that, you know, I'm here. And if you ever need someone to talk to or hang out with, you know, we're here. And we're still currently working on trying to find another space to continue hosting our 12-step meetings out at Acoma Pueblo. So hopefully we'll be able to start those back up too as well.
Yeah. And just remember that you're the inspiration.
I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's all about me, but yeah.
Look at me.
Everybody's an inspiration. It's just a matter of going within, walking their path, talking their path. And it's very important that we look to the muse within ourselves and
Yes,
true.
and find that person that's like, hey, you can do it.
Oh,
you
man.
can do this, whatever it is. I mean, I've been known to move bookshelves saying, come on, we can do this, we can do this.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, if you have the ability to talk yourself through it, you can do anything.
Yes. It's all about understanding that leverage and the fulcrum to make that big stone be able to move it with just a pinky, you know, and a bunch of pulleys, and, you know, that's the mind at work. You know, the mind is capable of accomplishing great things, you know, as long as you know the tools and the methods you need to use to accomplish it.
Give me a long enough stick, I'll be able to leverage any
There
heavy
you go.
heart. Any heavy
There you
heart.
go. Yeah.
It's your intention. What is your intention? And set an intention every day.
Yes.
And see what you can do to reach that intention. I mean, set an intention. It's important.
A direction.
Yes.
A positive direction for
Yeah.
that'll benefit not only you but anybody who is around you.
That's right.
Because like most importantly, like to be better is not only to help other people, but most importantly to help yourself.
Yes.
Because without that, how can the tool you be good if the tool isn't, you know, optimized or well oiled and all of that?
That's why they tell you put on your oxygen mask first, and then you can go help others put on their oxygen mask as well.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because if you don't have your oxygen, you're just gonna pass out, and then everyone else is gonna go passing out too. So yeah, that's what it is. You know?
Exactly. Make sure you're on stable ground before you can pull anybody else onto
Yes.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And unify. Find like-minded others. Find your tribe.
Yeah.
Find your people that will work with you and support you and inspire you and keep you going on
Yes.
that path.
I think it's a very fine balance though with a lot of this, because like there are some directions where you think it's a good output, but like you can very easily surround yourself with yes men,
Yeah.
and where like they say they egg you on even with the negative influences.
Yeah. And, you know, it's unfortunate. But luckily, I've been surrounded by friends who, even though they're not necessarily on that sobriety path that I'm on, they're more than encouraging on keeping me on track, you know. So that what that means is that even though I'm not out there drinking with them anymore or doing these kind of things, and I hope that they get on my path soon, but it's not for me to force them to. But, you know, whenever I see them, you know, we're still friends. We still talk and everything. And they're always there to encourage me along. And I'm always there to encourage them along, too, and ask them how they're doing. And that's just the way it has to be for now. You know?
I love those homies, man. Like,
Yeah.
when we're like one of my friends, he recently stopped drinking, and like whenever like he's around other people who still drink, and he talks about like his sobriety, and they uplift him. It's so nice to have like the people who to have that positive circle around you.
Yeah.
Of building you up towards everybody wanting you to be the best you, and where it's because I've had situations where the group I'm surrounded with, all the intentions was for their gains and to use my knowledge and my process to help them get to where they needed to be. But now like there's a circle around me, mind you, it got a lot smaller, but it's surrounded by people that want me to be the best me that I can be, with like not only helping myself but elevating other people too.
Yes. And that's kind of like one of the things that, you know, gives me that ability to empathize with my buddies, because then that's why I spoke earlier about not trying to like force them or like saying like, oh, you got to stop drinking or you should stop drinking or try, because I remember when I was still in my storm that, you know, I didn't want to hear it, you know, but, you know, I just let them know that I'm always there. And whenever they're ready, you know, I'm ready to help them along on that path, you know, if that's what it's going to.
They just need to know that
everyone out there, you know, not just my friends, everyone, you know, when you're ready to take that leap and make that journey or attempt it, you know, we're here to help you along. So that's the main message that I'm doing these podcasts for, is to get that word out there, you know. So
change is scary, but
big time.
But jumping into it and making that change is well worth it. Facing that fear and going forward, evolving yourself is important.
Yes.
And 100%, I can tell you there's nothing about that past that I want to go back to or miss or anything like that. I don't miss hangovers. I don't miss jail. I don't miss like all of that stuff, being sick. And so, but it's good. So other than that, I don't know if you guys want to continue on or if this is.
I think that was a pretty decent discussion on what were we trying to talk about?
I think we were going to go on the subconscious, but yeah.
Okay, maybe dreams next time.
Yes, definitely.
Dreams next time. Also, like, probably also maybe a couple. Maybe next time I want to probably mention the Myers-Briggs personality.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I remember taking the Myers-Briggs.
4 letters. What are they?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
It was when Beth Armistead was still here that I took the Myers-Briggs. So that was.
We used to have it free for students to take that, and it was a great.
Those things are accurate.
It's it's very, very accurate, and you can find it now online. It's called the Big Personality, the Big 5 Personality Test.
Big 5 Personality Test.
You can go online, and they do have a paid version and a non-paid version. But if you go through the process, you can get the non-paid version and get a lot of information about yourself and your own personality.
It's a very interesting one. I just wanted to ask you guys if you were mentioning whether or not you remembered your 4-letter things, because I don't know, like I take it with a very, very like slightest grain of salt, because I tested it several times and I came out as an INFJ, and I'm like, I don't know.
It's the way that test works is you're basically you end up with the initials, like the trying to think of the INFJ. It's been a long time since I did the Myers-Briggs. But basically it's those letters stand for something. Okay? Yeah. So I'm not sure what the I
think it was intuitive or introvert, extrovert, intuitive, feeling, and then INF.
Judgmental.
Feeling or thinking, and the last one is judgment or feeling.
That's right. That's right. So it just tells you about yourself. And again, the more you know yourself, the more you can get on your path and determine what that path is.
Yeah. Literally what makes you tick. But
that's exactly right.
That's for the next discussion.
Yes.
Until
next time.
Until next time. Signing off.
Katie O'Connor,
James Jimerz,
and Tommy Skeet.
And don't forget to start writing down your dreams and keeping the journal and thinking positive. Stay positive, stay strong, and until next time. Episode 3, Jimerz Rantz.
We'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Yeah, that went pretty well. Even though we